This is the reason why you should buy. And we're not asking the most important question, the reason why it was important for them, in their heart of hearts. Like, that's a sale. Then we're going to see results, the mindset. Going into every opportunity, saying to yourself, I would love to have the business, but I don't need the business. When they talk about building their organization just through referral, that means they're missing it. The internet almost shut down because they're like, are you blind? Do you not know what's going on out there? Do you not see what's happening?
You just hit 250,000 cold calls. Congratulations.
I always get a chuckle out of that intro. Hey, I'm here with my colleague and friend, Robert Pruitt, from SoPoly, EkoPoly. So excited to have him on today. I'm your host, Crispin Cruz with the Pipe Podcast. Obviously, Pipe standing for sales process, sales initiatives, sales prospecting, and sales experiences. And boy, oh boy, do I have an exciting one for you today. We're going to talk about observe, orient, decide, and act today, and how we kind of do that in our businesses. But before I do that, hey, Robert, let's just get a quick introduction for you. Maybe you can tell, some of the listeners and viewers, what part of the world you run, and just give them a little background on you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be with you today. I live in central Georgia, a little town called Eastman, Georgia. And, I stay busy with SoPoly. I've got a lot going on with that. I also run the economic development for the county here. And I'm also a pilot. I've been doing that for since 1996. I've been flying. So I stay busy with all those things and have a blast with it. And it's been real fun. I like to stay busy, as you can tell.
Yeah, I know you're always going. So we're just happy to have caught up with you a little bit today. And so, hey, I want to kind of jump right into it with your permission, Robert. Now let me take you back, because you are someone that I would consider a serial entrepreneur. Now, I own all of these gray hairs, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've been around. I've seen a few guys, make their way in and out of business, and a few people do that consistently. But let's just talk about, like, how did that happen? Like, when did you start to feel like, okay, listen, I'm going to be my own business owner. I'm making the decision to take that leap. Like, what did that look like in your world?
I had graduated from flight school and went on to fly with the airlines. I was flying with Delta there out of Atlanta, and did that for quite a while. And the commute back and forth, it's a good 2.5 hour drive. And I told my wife, something's got to change here. So we either move to Atlanta, or I've always wanted to start a business. And I find myself a bit of a study. I like to study things, even in the cockpit when I was flying with other guys, as I was the first officer. If I had a captain with me, you're always studying their decision-making skills. Why did you choose that? Why did you want to do that? So I'm always trying to learn and critique myself and get better. And so those skills are something I think that's really benefited me from that application to this. But it really just was an opportunity that came about. And for that first company I started, it was a visit to a bunch of people. I talked to a lot of people. Namely, one of them that got me started in my first company was one of the state legislators. I went and talked to them and said, what's a need in the area? What kind of things? I've written, maybe 10 business plans already, and just none of them excite me. There's nothing about it. And so I came across one that was aviation related, and there was a big need for aerospace processing, which is just taking parts for an aircraft and doing some special things to it, chemical coatings, checking, make sure there's no cracks in it, things like that. and you were part of the supply chain and building that out, and then taking that and delivering it to the OEM. You know, that's Boeing, Lockheed, Gulfstream, Sikorsky, any of those manufacturers. And so it was a small niche thing that worked out fantastically. That one was real fun. So that's kind of when I got bitten by it. And once I learned it and got the process, I was like, you know what, this is fun. I can do. It's a challenging. It definitely is challenging, but it's very rewarding at times. And so I kind of gotten bitten by that bug, I'd say. You know, Chris.
Yeah, I just love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
mean, when you talk about, that whole example of the guy in the cockpit always trying to, better yourself. You got bitten by it. I mean, those are things that really scream out to me, because anyone that I bring on the Pipe podcast, and even those that we serve throughout Sales Arbiter Services, it's interesting because the entrepreneurial, even though the journey is much different, a lot of entrepreneurs that I talk with, they have that same feeling. They were like, well, once I got into it, it just happened, and I think it's interesting also that I had a conversation just earlier last week with another business owner that I'm really, really close with and good friends with. And he was telling me about he's unemployable, right? he said, now I have become unemployable because there's no way that I could not be running my own business and making my own decisions and doing my own thing. How does that resonate
Yeah.
with you?
Yeah, that's a really good epiphany that it hits me at times too. That let's say this whole thing goes south, and I gotta go back to working for somebody else. What kind of employee am I going to be? Where I'm thinking the whole time I wouldn't do that, or something like that. So it could be frustrating for sure. But that's a great word to define that feeling. I know what he means by that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So let's talk a little bit about SoPoly and EcoPoly. So how did that start? And let's talk a little bit more about, now where you started and where we're at, with that organization now, and where do you think we're going next? So first, let's, at the very beginning, where do we start with this?
Yeah, so this was a bit of a purchasing opportunity that we had, and so 2019, I got out of my last company. We completely sold out of it, and I think that was around 2019. Shortly after, I'm getting bored real quick, and we end up, my wife and I end up buying a house, a vacation house, and there's no furniture in it, and so we have been a long time customer of Poly outdoor furniture. And so we went to go buy some. And when we did, the lead times were really long on it, measured in months. And so I kind of got frustrated again with that, that we couldn't get the furniture we wanted. And so it just made me start asking questions, where is this made? How is this made? What's this market like? And the more I dove into it, it was like, you mean to tell me there's only like 3 or 4 competitors out there?
Hmm.
It's all manufactured in the North, yet the majority of their market is in the South, and there's nobody in the South doing this.
Hmm.
And so that's just when the click happened, and I really do want to see this area grow. And rural Georgia is struggling in so many ways. You have all these small towns that are kind of, slowly um, getting smaller and constricting. And so it was an opportunity to bring in jobs too. And so the more I dove into it, I was coming out of an aerospace company, which was highly regulated. We had an auditor in our facility once a week. So somebody was in there looking over our shoulder. And the more I dove into that, I mean, you mean to tell me nobody's going to be there telling me how I got to do this or watch me or any? So there was a whole bunch of appealing aspects of it that made this really exciting. And so we jumped in it from there. And as you can see in the products there, we make a whole bunch of different things out of this poly material.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, if outdoor furniture can be beautiful, this stuff, I mean, it's beautiful and it's incredible. And so let's talk about like the how the product is manufactured, because you actually, I mean, you build it right there. And I mean, at your facility in Georgia.
Yeah, we do. I like being vertically integrated. So I like having the processes in-house. so I can control them, number one. And it's not a control thing as much as the process as it is prices, so it allows me to control my pricing by having these things in house because I'm not paying that additional markup. So we take in the materials, recycled materials, and different things like that. There's a whole bunch of a recipe that's being made for it. And we extrude our own lumber. So we melt it down. If you remember the old Play-Doh, it's just like those little Play-Doh kits that you'd put the Play-Doh in, you'd squeeze the handle and it'd squish it out in different shapes. So that's very similar to what we're doing here. It's just on a much larger scale, a lot of heat and things like that applied to it. But we extrude our own lumber. We call it lumber. It's in the shape of lumber. And then we take that and put it on CNC machines, cut it up into different parts, and then, assemble it into outdoor products.
That's great. That's great. And so a couple things on that. People love doing business with those within their own state, right? I think the state of Texas, for example, has built a whole economy around doing business with those that are in the state of Texas, that live in the state of Texas. Probably one of the best states that kind of focus on that. I feel like Georgia is the same way. Tell me a little bit about, your success regionally and then some of the successes that you've had nationally so far as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a little town down the road that is even smaller than Eastman, and they don't even have a gas station really there, but it's such a small town that it has a furniture store, and they pull in furniture, and they have a reputation for having great prices. And so I'm amazed at how far people travel to that. And so when we stood up this company, we started standing up a showroom as well, where we sell out of the showroom here. And so we treat ourselves as a store as well. But I was amazed that the pull of people that we have coming in. There was just some people in just a minute ago I was talking to. And so, it started out as 10 miles and then 30 miles and 100 miles. And so now we're pulling in from a larger area within the state, which has been amazing. I really underestimated what was going to happen with that. But being Georgia made is important. It resonates with people, and Georgia Department of Economic Development has a certification for Georgia made products. And so we bear that logo as well, which is fantastic. It's helped out a lot.
That is really awesome. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about that change. You mentioned just a little, like you're excited. You saw this change happening locally or regionally. So now you already told the listeners and viewers that you kind of started down this pathway in 2019. I think we all have an idea of what happened at the first quarter of 2020, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people were going back to work from home. There was a lot of home improvement. There were a lot of people that were kind of enjoying or realizing the joy that they get out of spending more time with their family. Of course, outdoors sports like hiking and water sports, all of those things increased. So tell me a little bit about how you saw the evolution of your company, during the COVID times as well.
I really wish I had a fantastic story with that I just took off and everything went great.
Right.
But we were not in position to take advantage of that in 2020. Because you're right, everything outdoor products went really strong during that time, and there was a ton of growth during that time, and we were just not in place to do that, and so we kind of struggled from that. And we're somewhat subdued for that. But the good thing is afterwards, we're still a small company. And so there was a ripple effect that happened where everybody over purchased. Most of the furniture stores did. And as a result of that, they had a lot of extra inventory. And so it got really difficult for us to sell during that time. Right. 2020, 21, even 22 was tough for us.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to see that curve starting to come back out now. We're seeing some upside. But for us as a really small startup, there was nothing but up we could go, really. And so bringing on all these stores was pretty easy from the standpoint of the fact that everybody else's lead times were measured almost in years. And so we are coming on, we've got a lot of reserve capacity and we're measuring in weeks or months. And so we were able to grow despite that. It just wasn't able to take advantage of it from the standpoint that a lot of other companies experienced a ton of growth out of that.
Yeah, they sure did. They sure did. And
Yeah.
there were lots of organizations that, went through tough times, at that.
Oh, yeah.
As that whole 2020 experience was unraveling for sure. So, and glad you made it out the other side of that, Robert.
I know it. Yes, sir.
Glad the company did too. So let's talk a little bit about what would you say to the listeners and viewers, that are out there that are, trying to grow their businesses? What are 3 things that you would recommend that they need to do throughout the rest of this year and maybe even early in 2025? What are the 3 things they should be focusing on right now to grow, their businesses?
Yeah. You've got on I saw some of this that you wrote that was on the introduction there, observe, orient, decide, act. And I'll take a little bit of time if I can to talk about that. OODA is another word for it, OODA. And it's something that I use a lot. If you ever heard of this story, I may have shared this with you about John Boyd and the OODA loop.
Right.
And it's a circle, O, D, and A coming back around. It's just a process that continues. And so John Boyd was a U.S. Air Force pilot in the 70s, early 70s in Vietnam, who employed this tactic and had really good success with it. And so some of the other pilots were asking him, what's your secret to success here? How are you doing this? And his response was that, I'd come up with this process called an OODA loop. And I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm observing and orienting, deciding and acting. And the faster that I can do that, the more of an advantage I have, and I put my adversary at a disadvantage. And so he took this process and really coined it, and it has taken off. It's used in law enforcement, legal proceedings. Our DOD uses it, but it's also very applicable to business. And so it can apply to you as a person, and it can apply to your company as a whole as well. So, I would say one of my main tasks is to observe, orient, and decide and act for the company on that behalf. So I'm always looking outside, and I'm looking at observing what's going on in the market. What's everybody else doing? I'm orientating my company towards those changes. It could be legal, legislative. It could be just market change. It could be color changes. Preferences for different colors. I'm making decisions, and then I'm acting on those and steering, kind of steering the ship, if you will. And so that's one big thing. If you're, new to entrepreneurial, aspect, it is a emotional roller coaster ride. Some days you're going to make it and you're top of the world. And the next day it's like, I'm sinking ship here. I'm not sure if this is going to work. And so that perseverance, I would say, is another aspect of it that you have really got to have. It's just a core group. So for me, it's my wife. I could not do this without her. She's a great sounding board. I can talk things through with her. Having rapport with other people is very important as well. So I would say those are some of the main aspects that I hold dear to that help me through this whole thing.
That's great. That's great. And so let's talk about, because you were a pilot for so long, you understand that, one person can't make it all happen, right? One person can't make it all happen. You're always kind of leveraging that team. What's your philosophy for SoPoly and that team approach, and how important that is with the interplay with all of the, other aspects of the organization as well?
Sure. Yeah, that's one thing during flying that I learned was it's called CRM, or crew resource management. And so this was something taken back in the 70s as well. There were some major accidents in the airlines. And so they started looking at that, and they realized that, the captain has got a ton of authority. And the way he leads is super critical to the success of the flight. And so they started realizing, you know what, that first officer's sitting in the right seat. Maybe there's another, flight engineer. There's flight attendants in the back. There's crew. There's weather, dispatchers on the ground. There's a whole bunch of resources you have available. And so the training shifted towards pilots being able to manage all of that and to use those resources as well. So if you've got a electrical problem and you're not an electrical engineer by any means, there are maintenance guys on the ground. Get on the radio, call them, and start talking through the process and try to figure out what's going on. And so I really do that. I think it's more of a team approach here. I love that. I don't like to bark orders or tell them. I want them to discover their own capabilities. I want them to learn how to grow quickly. And more importantly, I want them to fail fast. So we don't have time to, play around and keep going down these paths. It's either working or it's not going to work. And if it doesn't, we need to change directions and have a course correction. So those are some of the things I think that that really plays true for me.
Oh man, some of the things you're talking about right now are just absolute gold, Robert. I'm telling you, and the experiences that you had in drawing them together, drawing them from your past in experience with being a pilot, and now running the business is really, it's an interesting dichotomy, that you're bringing together there. So let's talk about the future of SoPoly. Where do we go next? Where are we going to see, SoPoly next? And what are you thinking? How I know, and listen, the answer is not, I'll share running half of the world with someone. Okay. That's not the answer, but where do you want to go next with SoPoly, and where do you see that happening over the coming years?
Yeah, so we're still in growth mode. Obviously, I want to become a dominant force down here in the South for this outdoor furniture, and it's going to take some time for that. That's one thing I lack is patience. I really want to grow. I want to grow fast, and I can get out in front of my skis, and so I've got to learn to have some restraint with that at times. I still struggle with that. It's probably one of my weaknesses, but the growth that we're going to experience is going to be, systematic, and we're trying to be measured about it. But I would say I've got some OODA loop type things that I'm planning on, implementing over time. And I think a word for them in the business market is market disruptors. Some things that challenge my competition and makes them think about their OODA loop and respond to me, which is exactly what John Boyd was talking about when flying. I'm flying, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to make you think about what I'm doing instead of me trying to figure out what you're doing. And so it's getting those different things that make you, market disruptors, gives you more market presence. And so those are some of the things I think that mainly I'm trying to push for as we continue these next few years.
That's great. That's great. And if you go on the website, you see how creative, some of these, and how just cool some of these products are. There are some really creative and customized pieces that you've done for pretty big flag companies out there. Blue chip companies, that you've been able to provide, these products for.
Yeah, we try to stay agile, which means we add the more custom flair. So in this picture here, you see that you can kind of two-tone it, and so you can pick the two favorite ones, and some of them may not be very appealing, like that Christmas color there with red and green, But for the most part, you can pick whatever you want. And so we try to keep it simple. Our competition usually charges different for different colors. We've just flatlined it. And so, colors, it doesn't matter what you want to do with it. We'll make something, to whatever your taste is with that. And so we give it a lot more freedom, and we try to embrace that with our different products.
Yeah. Well, when you put a couple of those colors together, it looked like one of my wife's dresses. So I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble for that. But I'm sure I'll get in trouble for that. So tell us one last thing, Robert. If if you had one word of advice on how to grow, I mean, you could use one more than one word. How about a phrase? But phraseology around how to grow your company this year. What should some of the entrepreneurs really be focused on looking for growth within their organizations this year? What's top of mind for you?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely processes. So for us, we have kind of created a baseline. We've gotten some success, we've gotten some sales, but if you want to scale, your processes have to be solid. And so for us, we're a national company, and so we're trying to grow more presence. And so in order to do that, having those processes locked in, it's the more people you get in the organization, the more complex it becomes, the harder it is to manage, and the disasters that you had as a small company are exponential as you get larger. And so having those processes in place is super critical, I would say, and that's something that we're looking at working on more, which is why we've got Sales Arbiter on our side right now helping with that.
No, thank you for that. That's very kind. That's very kind. All right. So this is the time that we typically, talk about and pivot to, the Sales Arbiter 7. And
Okay.
this is something that, that I kind of came up with. Our friend James Lipton from inside the Actors Studio, he would always ask the guest like a series of questions at the end, of his interview. And these are things that, maybe those that are listening or viewing, or maybe those that are close to some of this info, but even then, some new things typically come out. So as long as you're willing to participate in the Sales Arbiter 7, I'd like to jump into that right now, if you don't mind.
Please do.
Okay, so let's go. So the first one, what is your favorite word, Robert? What's your favorite word?
I would say it's win. So I like winning. I really do not like losing. And so, winning is something, because it makes a good day that much better when you have some kind of success at it.
I love it. I love it. And you're right, winning. And that talks to the entrepreneur and the sales guy, right? Because you
absolutely.
get that, when you make a sale, you get that win, it just gives you that next, that push to want to continue to just continue to grow your business, grow your book. It's exciting.
It does.
Always exciting.
Absolutely.
I love it. What is your least favorite word?
I don't know if it's a word, but it is a word, but it's more of a I'd say it's inefficiency is one of the things that I can't stand seeing when we're spinning our wheels. And so my least favorite word is inefficiency by far. A waste is another word that you hear for lean manufacturing, those type of things.
That's great. So tell me something that could make your day.
I would say a good sale definitely makes your day, or bringing on a new client or a new dealer is something also, because there's long-term, ramifications for that. A sale can, just maybe one time, it could help you once, but having that good client, that good dealer that carries your products, it's amazing to see that.
Yeah, let's talk about that for 1 second, because we didn't really get into that too much, right? There's different ways that you provide that product out to out to those that want to purchase it or at least want to experience it. So you have the dealer side, and you sell direct as well. There's some other ways that we do that, right?
Yeah, for us, the majority of our business is through dealers. So those are stores out there that are carrying our products. And I love traveling and going to see them and visit those stores. And Crispin, I cannot tell you how humbling it is to go into a store and see them take vital real estate and have your product sitting there when you walk in the door. It's just, it is really an amazing feeling. And it's, like I said, it's humbling. And that's something that I really try to convey to our all of our team members. If I can go in there and I could take that video or that picture, I love relaying that to them and sharing it with them and showing them so that they can comprehend and understand the impact that they're having, not on just that store, but it's the families and the downstream, friends that enjoy that product. So
Yeah.
one of our little catchphrase is bringing family and friends together. It's something that we believe in strongly. So, but yeah, absolutely. There's a lot more to it than just that one sale for sure.
I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it. Thank you for that. All right, let's get back to this. So something we just talked about, what could make your day, something that could ruin your day. What's that? What's that look like?
I'd say it's maybe a canceled order, kind of thing. Hearing about those things, they definitely impact you. It means that you've disappointed somebody. You've failed their expectations in some way, and it happens. It happens to everybody, and it's part of the business cycle. But how do you manage that? How do you rise to the occasion? Is a critical part of that. So there's an upside to it, but it can be a tough day when you have that happen.
That's right. Yeah, I understand. I understand.
Yeah, we all do.
What noise or sound do you love?
This is really funny that a sound or a noise is kind of new that I'd say in the last year or two, and that is, Shopify and BigCommerce has got this app, and it'll go cha-ching, you know what I mean? And so we have that, those, and so it's all set. And so it sounds like when an order gets entered here, it sounds like rapid fire because everybody's got that app on their phone and it's all synced to our network. And so it will cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. It just goes off everywhere. And so I do love hearing that because it's a symbol of success.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's great. What noise or sound do you hate?
What noise do I hate? Man, I don't know that I've got a good one for that one. It's the typical fingernails on the chalkboard type stuff, I would guess. Those never go over good.
Yeah.
But no, there's no wah wah wah. There's no negative side of that app. Thank goodness,
Right,
of a lost sale. That would
good.
make a bad day real quick.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
I got it. What profession, would you have liked to attempt instead of your own?
I kind of feel like I should have been an engineer of some sort. I'm taken to the data. I'm taken to the process. I really love that, aspect of things. And so it's probably something that I would have enjoyed if I had done it and stuck to it, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, something like that. So that would be something I would have loved to attempt it had I had more time.
Yeah, that's interesting because a lot of, and this is another connection I can make with a lot of entrepreneurs out there. They're tinkerers. They like to tinker. They like to build things. They like to, it kind of takes me back to that, that movie Pretty Woman. Like, we're gonna build great big boats. They says at the end. Right, the old entrepreneur, the old business owner, right? He says that. So
there's a bit of curiousness too. I'm very curious. I like to know how things work. I like to ask questions about it. If you had something new or something different, I definitely want to, try to figure out, how does that work? What's it built on? Those kind of things. So there's a bit of curiousness or natural curiousness that comes, I think, too, as part of being an entrepreneur.
That's great. That's great. Well, listen, Robert, I'm so glad that you were on today. Thank you for sharing all of that, information about your company and your kind of your venture and your voyage to how you got to, how you kind of brought SoPoly to the marketplace and all those other things that we discussed today. So for now, we'll sign off. I'm Crispin Cruz, Robert Pruitt, President, CEO at SoPoly. One last thing, Robert, how do they get in touch with you? How do they get in? What's the best way for them to get to, your company? With any that watch this or listening to this podcast right now, and they're saying to themselves, I need high quality outdoor furniture products. I need high quality products from SoPoly. How do they find you?
I would, you got SoPoly.com. If you're local, we've got a showroom. Coming in and visiting us, is always something. But we take pride in answering the phone. So there is a phone number there on SoPoly.com. You go in there, give us a call, anything like that, and we can help out. We've got sales staff there waiting to take orders or to help out however they can.
That's great. That's great. Again, thanks for being on today, Robert. Really great sharing your story with the rest of the listeners and viewers. And listen, keep selling and have fun doing it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
This is the reason why you should buy. And we're not asking the most important question, the reason why it was important for them, in their heart of hearts. Like, that's a sale. Then we're going to see results, the mindset. Going into every opportunity, saying to yourself, I would love to have the business, but I don't need the business. When they talk about building their organization just through referral, that means they're missing it